Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reports, the independent and trusted pollster on the Real Clear Politics Aggregate, who has told you the truth week after week after week that Donald Trump is winning the 2024 election. And that might be news to you if you're watching the mainstream media, although I think what you're seeing now is an utter implosion as people are waking up to the possibility that Trump is actually going to win this thing. I know a lot of people aren't going to want to acknowledge that. But what we're going to get into today is our recent slate of swing state polling. You're not going to want to miss it because they represent a massive shift to the right. And we'll also take a look at the national picture, the polling picture, and even what's going on in the media. But before we do, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor again for this set of state polling. We've been able to double the amount of polls we did this cycle, almost entirely because of American Thinker for September and October. And it's a really great, legendary conservative blog. A lot of good content here. The Democrat Party's testosterone deficiency. And that really is the core of the problem. I don't think Waltz and his Elmer Fudd duds really appeal to masculine men in America, and certainly not the appearance that we saw last night with Bret Baier being lectured about how his version of reality dares to differ from Kamala Harris's gaslit bubble. But anyways, please go to their site, follow them on Twitter, subscribe to their newsletter. I think you're going to like the content that they put out. But now we're going to get into the crosstabs. And we already looked at Pennsylvania a little bit, but I'm going to recap everything. We got 6 states here: Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, and what's the one I'm missing? North Carolina. That's right. Pennsylvania was a pretty strong Trump +3. Trump 50% to Harris 47%. David McCormick 45 to Bob Casey Jr. 47. But it was really only about a 1.5 point race, and the Republicans up 3 points on the generic congressional ballot. The last video that we did on the swing states really went through these crosstabs with a fine-tooth comb. You're going to want to go to RasmussenReports.com and download them for yourselves if you haven't yet. There were really huge and important questions here to help you understand the fundamentals of the race. Will today's children be better off than their parents? Only 20% of Pennsylvania voters say yes. Horrible. Only 13% of Pennsylvania independent voters, 54% say no. Absolutely disgusting stuff, like the question about the Civil War. How likely is it that America will experience another civil war or revolution in the next few years? 46% say at least somewhat likely. Only 14% say not likely. Here is North Carolina. Another really good turnout for Trump. This one is Trump 51% to Harris 46%. Trump +5, a 2-point shift to the right just since September. And we have some questions here about FEMA and the hurricane response. So you can take a look at them for yourselves and determine if you think that's what has caused the shift to the right in this state. No Senate race in this state, but the generic ballot is a little narrower, Republican +3. Moving on to Wisconsin, another good turnout for Trump. And in this state, we have Trump 49 to Harris 47, Trump +2. That represents another shift to the right. Eric Hovde is now down only 1 point on Tammy Baldwin. This could be a Republican Senate pickup. And the generic ballot is Republicans +2. And then finally, the other crosstab we have is Michigan. And this one was a tough one. I spent a lot of time trying to understand the sample. The independents were really left of where they should have been, considering our previous polling, considering what the exit polling looked like in 2020. I think it's just one of those things, you go out and you poll 6 states and they're not all going to come back normal. There's going to be outliers. This one, Trump is tied with Harris, 48 to 48. So it's anybody's race. Mike Rogers is tied with Alyssa Slotkin, 44 to 44. Although there was internal polling released from Alyssa Slotkin herself, who said that Harris was actually down on Trump. And I think that is a very good reason to think, considering all the other Rust Belt states lean Trump, that our polling is probably too left here. Again, it might be an outlier, or maybe we're just messing something up in Michigan. because the Republicans lead Democrats by 2 points here. And really, to be honest with you, Trump got more votes than any Republican in history. That's really a strange finding. Trump really should outperform Republicans here. Now we're going to go to this chart. This sums up all of our state polling this time around. And we only did 6 states. We got to do, I think it was 10 states last time. Michigan, though, is a tie, but that's up a point from Harris +1 just 3 weeks ago. Nevada, we did not release crosstabs yet, but Nevada is looking more solid for Trump. This is more in line with the rest of our polling. We had Nevada going Trump +2 in August. It's back to Trump +2, and the Senate race, the Republican was only down 1 point here. I think that Sam Brown, that is really good for him because he was doing horribly in September. North Carolina, Trump +5, up from Trump +3. Ohio is again Trump +7, but the news here, for the first time, and maybe, as far as I know, for the first poll ever released by anybody, we have Bernie Moreno up a point, which would be another Republican pickup. Pennsylvania, Trump +3, up an astounding 3 points from September. And again, McCormick trailing by only 1.5 points here. We didn't do Virginia this time out, but there probably is rightward movement there. That makes it really dangerous for Harris. Virginia could be an early flip on election night. And we have Wisconsin moving a massive 2 points towards Trump. Trump +2, again, putting the Senate race way more competitive than it was just 3 weeks ago. All right, let's go to my browser. Here's the national race, and it's now Harris 1.5. It's kind of been there for a few days, but this is down from, I think, a max of Harris 2.2 or 2.3 not that long ago. So the polling has slightly started moving left, but as we all know, it was preceded by the loser narrative as mainstream media outlets all of a sudden realized that the polling didn't support the headlines, and Kamala Harris, they weren't able to drag her far enough, and it's time to start preparing their viewers for the inevitability of a potential Trump win. And you're seeing it across the board. Like NBC News had Harris +5. They're back to tie. There's no way the race really moved 5 points to the right. Their other poll was likely a lie. You see Marquette has tie. Fox News, definitely left-leaning, even though they're attached to Fox News, has Trump +2. That's actually a point to the right of us. And we'll get into the latest chart. But yeah, now we're doing daily 4-day rolling crosstabs. And the last result was Trump +1. I wouldn't freak out about it. I think it'll move back and forth, probably between 1 and 2. But that's the race. It's moving against Harris. Trump is surging. Trump has the momentum. Definitely what happened last night wasn't helpful for the Kamala Harris campaign as she imploded on Fox News. Don't believe anybody who says that was a strong night for her. The whole point of going on something like Fox News is to pick up swing voters, to pick up undecideds. And not a single bit of her performance or message was geared towards acknowledging these people's very real concerns about the economy and the border, because for everybody, women, black voters, Democrats, the number one issue is the economy. And some of them care about abortion, basically MSNBC watchers, but abortion is not the number one issue. Threats to democracy are not the number one issue for anybody but CNN and MSNBC watchers. Fox News watchers care about the border first and foremost. Why weren't your answers better on that? But let's run through the states. We didn't poll Arizona this time, but we've been Trump up in Arizona. Other really good pollsters, Trafalgar. New York Times Siena has Trump up 5 in Arizona. This looks like a lock. The Hill Emerson should be the left bookend here and is Trump +2. And listen, if it's closer to New York Times Siena, that's probably enough to get Kerry Lake elected, to be honest with you. Nevada, we had Trump up 2. Wall Street Journal, Trump up 6. Wow. Trafalgar, this is probably within the margin of error of our poll. Nevada is probably the biggest one that's a toss-up. Wisconsin, we had Trump +2. Quinnipiac agrees with us. The Hill and Wall Street Journal show the race at tied. Trafalgar's got Trump +1. It's definitely leaning Trump. Michigan, we had Trump tie. Quinnipiac put out Trump +4. Rich Barris just had Trump +3.5. Insider Advantage, Trump +2. Trafalgar, Trump +2. This one is looking almost comfortable for Trump, but not as comfortable as Pennsylvania. And you can see that this number is actually less than the Michigan aggregate, but Trump should perform to the right of Michigan. We have Trump +3. New York Times Siena says Harris +3, but it's really closer to a Trump +4 because they're oversample of Biden 2020 voters. A lot of other good pollsters have Trump up. Quinnipiac, has kind of been all over the place, but specifically in Pennsylvania, it looks like, look at this, mid-September, Harris +5. So that Harris +2 for Quinnipiac is a massive move back to the right. This number here assumes that there is zero left-wing polling bias in these numbers. But we know this New York Times Siena number is really Trump +4. That probably brings this up closer to 1. UMass, like, come on. Quinnipiac. These are not the names that you want pulling your numbers to the left. These are not the names that you want to hang your hat on as Kamala Harris as you look at the Pennsylvania polling. North Carolina, we had Trump +5. Quinnipiac, Harris +3, but everybody else has Trump up. And North Carolina should perform to the right of Georgia, but the polling is basically the same. I don't know. This looks pretty safe too. This is a really small Wall Street Journal sample. It's kind of aged. Not a lot of good polls here. I think one of the things we're seeing is that if the numbers are expected to be favorable to Trump, people duck it. But listen, if these are way too many numbers for you to be able to process, don't worry. The betting market is processing the numbers for you, finally. And look what has happened in the betting markets just in the last day. I mean, this is like real-time processing of the impact of Kamala Harris's horrible interview on Fox News, and the market didn't like it. Look, the race was roughly a little bit over 20 points in Trump's favor before the interview, and now it's up to, what's that, almost 24 points? That's a really big swing on essentially a relatively inconsequential event. And if you look at all of the swing state polling, it all looks very favorable to Trump. Although I will say it looks like Nevada swung back. So maybe the Nevada is the current battleground market. Every other swing state is going comfortably for Trump on the betting market odds. And even this looks horrible. This is the Real Clear Politics no toss-ups. So they basically force every state to one side or another. And again, most of these states, according to the aggregate, with no left-wing polling bias, mostly look like statistical ties. But this is what's going out to normies who don't understand polling. Real Clear Politics, an unbiased reporting outlet, the expert of polls, is putting out a Trump 312 electoral college vote win. That's where the loser narrative is coming from. That's why cracks are appearing in the narrative that Harris was up, because she was never up, as our numbers here show. This is the new daily chart. We still put out the overnight numbers, except they've been increased in sample size to get the margin of error down a little bit. But instead of the moving average starting back on October 13, we are now putting out a 4-day aggregated weighted crosstabs that you can see at rasmussenreports.com. And last night's results show that the race is tied. The previous night's results have all kind of averaged out to about Trump +2. I expect that this is just part of the normal statistical swing. And like we've seen for the last 2 months now, it'll continue to be a Trump +2 race. But whatever. At this point, it doesn't matter. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by more than 2 points and still lost the race. Even if it's a Trump tie, Trump's winning. And time again, I will say that I think there are a multitude of reasons to expect that Trump outperforms the polling, even our polling. But this is incredible. This is the kind of massive shifts that you see in the polling as all of the perennially left pollsters attached to left-leaning corporate media outlets scramble to finally get their last polls as accurate as possible and make up for the fact that they've been shilling for Democrats for 2 months. This is the latest set of swing states out of Morning Compost. They shifted the Wisconsin race 7 points to the right to show, like us, that Trump is winning. They shifted North Carolina 3 points to the right. Pennsylvania 1 point to the right. It's now a statistical tie there. And 6 points to the right in Michigan. What was wrong with their polls? What was that, a month ago? Why did they have Harris up 8 in Michigan? Why did they have Harris up 6 in Wisconsin? Nobody else did. It's to drive the narrative, folks. They're lying to you. And if you don't want to be lied to, make sure you follow Rasmussen Reports at Twitter, Rasmussen_poll. You can come to my account as well. It's kind of the same stuff, except a little bit more hot takes and memes. Mark_R_Mitchell. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to us on YouTube or Rumble. And thanks for watching.